Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Magic the Conversation. Today's episode, we will be going over the 22nd expansion in the Magic the Gathering game, known as Planeshift. Planeshift came out in February of 2001. It continues the invasion block and has a lot of story involved in it. A lot of things happen in the midst of this war, in the midst of this set, as denizens of Dominaria are fighting for their lives against the Phyrexian invasion. Where we last left off, Sabo Tavax was the Phyrexian general in charge of the first wave. Gerard and the crew of the Weatherlight, as well as the Metatron soldiers and Urza and company, were able to fight him off, thus forcing Sabo Tavax to retreat back to Wrath. And Krovax, the new Evankar of the Stronghold of Wrath, ends up executing her for failing in her duties and pretty much cannibalizes her, thus ending her life. And then Krovax will assume command. The Stronghold successfully overlays into Dominaria in the nation of Orborg. Orborg is Dominaria's swampy continent, so to speak, where black mana is most prevalent. And through there, all the Phyrexian forces that were there just suddenly appeared. And the crew of the Weatherlight, as well as the Metatron and Urza's forces, are overwhelmed after that. Urza assembles a group of other planeswalkers, 8 others, I believe, and they're known as the Titans. They each power the power armor that Urza had constructed, and they planeswalk to Phyrexia itself. They want to detonate bombs, thinking that if they take Phyrexia on at their heart, they'll be able to defeat them. Urza once tried to do it by himself, and he was overpowered. But with 8 other planeswalkers at his side, he should have been able to get this job done. One of these planeswalkers is Tavek Sot, and he ends up betraying 2 of the others and killing them. Urza had gambled, or I should say Urza had counted on Svexot's betrayal, and he uses Svexot's soul to power the bombs in order to destroy Phyrexia. The rest of Urza's allies involving the Titans view this as horrible, inhumane. They don't want anything to do with Urza anymore. They compare him to being a Phyrexian himself, and they end up leaving. Being all alone, Urza ends up being tempted by Yawgmoth himself, the father of all machines, and the whole reason why the Phyrexians exist in the first place. He is shown that his brother is being tortured, Mishra from eons ago. And then Urza eventually sees visions of what Yawgmoth shows him, how all Yawgmoth wants is perfect unity, and with perfect unity there is peace, no, what's the word I'm looking for? Nobody revolts in Phyrexia, all is one, and Urza, being as cold-hearted as he is, or being as logical as he is, finally gives in, and he bows a knee to Yawgmoth, thus betraying everything that he's tried so hard to defeat them. Back in Dominaria, the crew of the Weatherlight ends up facing Grevin aboard the Predator. The Weatherlight has been upgraded since their last battle, so it easily takes out the Predator. But Grevin boards the Weatherlight and is killed by Tarngarth the Minotaur, who was a victim of torture back in the Tempest block. The dragons from the invasion set, the Dargays, they end up going on a rampage. Not only do they attack the Phyrexians, but they also attack their fellow allies, Dominarian. Dargays himself fights the Weatherlight, causing it to be severely damaged, and it'll end up crashing. Dargaz realizes that the rampage, the damage that him and his brethren have caused, and he plunges himself into a volcano out of guilt and in order to stop the carnage that the dragons are creating. And finally, Gerard himself ends up being kidnapped by Urtai, who has now become a full Phyrexian since his abandonment on Wrath. And Yawgmoth shows Gerard visions that or Krovax, I should say, tells Gerard that Yawgmoth can bring Hannah back from the dead because the Phyrexians do have the ability to do that. At first, Gerard is reluctant, but because Hannah was the love of his life, he also takes a knee alongside Urza, and two of our greatest heroes who were supposed to fight the Phyrexians have now joined the Phyrexians. And that pretty much summarizes the story of Planeshift. I will go over more of the details of what happens in the story as we see the cards. But we will go ahead and get started with the cards themselves. First card is Allied Strategies. 5-mana sorcery. Excuse me. Target player draws a card for each basic land type among lands he or she controls. Each commander looked at the others and wondered who would be first to break the alliance. In the artwork, it shows a Minotaur General, the captain of the Metatron, and Lord Dralnu, a Lich Lord. They all teamed up, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They all teamed up against the Phyrexians. But later on, Lord Dralnu, the character all the way on the right, he wants control of the Metatron army, so he secretly poisons the general and the other Metatron. The Minotaurs find out, and the Minotaur General executes Lord Dralnu before his plan could come into fruition. Fortunately, the Metatron General succumbs to Lord Dralnu's dark magic and wishes to be killed, a mercy killing by the Minotaur General as well. As further, what the card itself does, it rewards players for playing one of each of the basic lands. So at most, you could draw 5 cards for 5 mana. It is a sorcery, though, so little drawback. Next up, the Kavu make a return. Alpha Kavu, 3 mana, 2/2. Pay a green and a colorless. Target Kavu gets -1 power, but +1 toughness until end of turn. Kavu leaders instinctively protect their herds from harm. I love the artwork on this card. It reminds me of I forgot what they were. Shriekers from Tremors 2. And I love the Kavu as the creatures as a whole. So I like this card a lot. Amphibious Kavu's next. 3 mana, 2/2. We can see that it's a Kavu underwater. This merfolk's face looks in terror and disgust. Anyway, when Amphibious Kavu blocks or becomes blocked by one or more blue or black creatures, the Amphibious Kavu gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Merfolk raided the shores untroubled for years until the shores started fighting back. So he'll become a 5/5 if he becomes blocked or blocks a blue or black creature. So he would be good sideboard-wise. By itself, 3 mana, 2/2, basic. Ancient Spider. For 4, it's a 2/5 green-white creature with first strike and reach. It outlived both king and castle. Outdated for its rarity. If it wasn't a rare, I'd say it should be an uncommon maybe. But it is a spider nonetheless. Arctic Merfolk, 2 mana 1/1 Merfolk with kicker. The kicker is you have to return a creature you control to your own hand. If you pay the kicker cost, the Arctic Merfolk comes into play with a +1/+1 counter on it. So 2 mana for a 2/2 by returning one of your creatures to your hand. Not so good unless that creature you're returning has like an enter the battlefield effect. That'll make it better. Aura Blast, 2 mana, destroy target enchantment, draw a card. None of your history books mention me. Laugh Daria. They will now. Daria was one of the Titans, Planeswalkers. I think Zvexot. It was one of the two that Zvexot betrayed and killed. Excuse me. Aurora Griffin. 4 mana 2/2 Griffin with flying. Pay a white. Target permanent becomes white until end of turn. Though a fierce fighter, its true value is that it inspires beleaguered forces. I still don't like that how the Griffin's power toughness is so weak. Like, it seems like a lot of the Griffins in the game cost 4, but they're only 2/2s with flying. I've seen bigger birds in Magic, so I think the Griffins haven't been done justice in the game. Why you would want to change a permanent to white? Well, if you have creatures or Circle of Protection white, there you go. Or anything that combos with white. Bog Down. 3 mana. Target player discards 2 cards from their hand. If you paid the kicker cost, which is sacrificing 2 of your own lands, they discard 3 cards from their hand instead. That's way too costly for my opinion. Not worth it. Caldera Kavu, 3 mana 2/2 Kavu. Pay a black and or colorless. It gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Pay a green. He becomes the colors of your choice until end of turn. Or color. As powerful and malleable as the molten rock it calls home. So you can see the Kavu come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and elements. The artwork is cool. Cavern Harpy, 2/1 flying for a black and a blue. When Cavern Harpy comes into play, you must return a blue or black creature you control to your hand. And then at any time you can pay 1 life to return the Harpy to its owner's hand. Now the set symbol from Planeshift is 2 worlds swirling into one. This signifies when Wrath melded with Dominaria and became one, where the Stronghold merged with Urborg. So a lot of creatures in this where it starts off as one but becomes another. You can see in the artwork there's a soldier or some human, but then this Planeshift portal shows up, and then out of that portal comes a Harpy. So no longer the guy disappears, and then a Harpy takes his place. Hey Vinny, welcome in. I used Cavern Harpy a lot with decks that had creatures enter the battlefield effects. And the Harpy is hard to kill because if somebody targets it with the spell, the owner can just pay a life and return it to its owner's hand. But you always have to have another creature to return if you want the Harpy to stay out. Cloud Cover, 4 mana enchantment for blue and white. Whenever another permanent you control becomes a target of a spell and ability controlled by your opponent, you may return that permanent to its owner's hand. So if anything of your stuff is targeted, you could return it to your hand instead of it dying or getting weaker. Did I ever pay the 1 life? And he asked for the Harpy. I never did, honestly. I never did because the deck that I had it in, I never really I had bigger threats that my opponent usually targeted. Confound, 2 mana instant, counter target spell that targets 1 or more creatures, and you get to draw a card. Did I know Slap would betray us? Urza asked quizzically. I was counting on it. So here in the artwork is a Serpentine Planeswalker, Zvexot. And Urza had specifically built his power armor to trap him inside and use his soul to charge the soul bombs that he was going to use to detonate the Spears of Phyrexia. However, all this was in vain because when Yawgmoth convinced Urza to join him and all to become one and be at peace, Urza deactivated the bombs. Did I ever pay the one for Rhystic Study? I have a few times, Vinny. That was back in Prophecy. Crosus's Catacombs. When Crosus's Catacombs is a lair in addition to its land type. When it comes into play, sacrifice it unless you return a non-lair card you control to its owner's hand. And then you could tap for a blue, a black, or a red. Each of the dragons, the legendary dragons from Invasion, got a lair and a charm. Crosus's Charm, choose one. You can return target permanent to its owner's hand, destroy a non-black creature and it can't be regenerated, or destroy an artifact. Most of the charms in Magic are good because of their versatility. This one is no different. Here's Dargaze's Caldera. Does the same thing as the lair, except it can tap for a black, green, or a red. Dargaze's Charm. Return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or deal 3 damage to a creature or player, or target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Daring Leap, it's a blue-white instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying and first strike until end of turn. Most warriors think in only 2 dimensions. Agnate and his Metatron brethren were trained to battle in 3. Agnate was the name of the Metatron general that was being used by Lord Dralnu and poisoned. Here, they have a Metatron taking a daring leap to kill this Phyrexian. Dark Suspicions, 4-mana enchantment. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player loses 1 life for each card in their hand that they have more than you have in your hand. After 4,000 years, you learn to plan for betrayal. This is where, again, another scene where Vex saw it after he betrays the rest of the Titans. Urza stops him. But one of the reasons why the Titans were so upset with Urza, not only did he use Vexot's soul, pretty much killing him in the process, but if Urza knew that Vexot was going to betray them, he pretty much put all the other Titans, Planeswalkers, in danger. The card itself is really good if you have a way to just ditch your hand as fast as possible. And it'll force your opponent to have to play all the cards in their hand. Otherwise, they're going to be losing a lot of life each turn. Yes, it would be a good EDH card. I've never used the card itself. I always viewed it as like not a trash rare, but I never really wanted to use this card. Dedapult, 3-mana enchantment. Pay a red, sacrifice a zombie. Deal 2 damage to any target. Nothing ruins your day like a blazing zombie. Here we have a Lich Lord. Looks like he's firing a Hadouken from Street Fighter, but it's a firing corpse. A zombie that's on fire. It's funny for red because red doesn't really have zombies. Not all the way until you get to Amonkhet. But this pretty much forced you to play black-red since zombies were very, very, very prevalent in black. I did use Dedapult in a zombie deck before. Don't really remember if it did me much good. But on paper, I think it does. Death Bomb. As additional cost to play Death Bomb, you must sacrifice a creature, destroy target non-black creature. It cannot be regenerated, and then its controller loses 2 life. There's no higher honor in Phyrexia than dying for Yawgmoth's glorious vision. Here, the Phyrexians did drop a bomb. The bomb went off, and this tree folk, I think it's a Magnagoth tree folk, just got splintered all over the place. The red-black goblin, if he's a zombie, then yes. Oh, yeah. There was a red-black goblin in, I think, Invasion Block. Or maybe this set. Forgot what set it was. Maybe Apocalypse. Destructive Flow for a black, a green, and a red enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-basic land. Stage 2 of the Phyrexian invasion included the complete alteration of Dominaria's landscape. This would wreak havoc in a group game of Commander where a lot of non-basic lands are more prevalent than basics. Diabolic Intent. For 2 mana, is additional cost to cast it. Sacrifice a creature. Search your library for any card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Here we have the artwork. Krovax is so pleased with himself after he took his battle axe to Sabot's Vok. Here she's kind of begging for her life. Her body's all mangled. And once again, Krovax is rejoicing. Good tutor card as long as you have a creature to sacrifice. Disciple of Kanji. 3 mana 2/2 wizard. Pay a blue, tap it. Target creature gains flying and becomes blue until end of turn. Here, the disciple is using his water magic to burst a Kavu in the sky. When no birds are available, Kanji's disciples fill the sky with anything that's willing to fight. Dominaria's Judgment. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain protection from white if you control the plains, from blue if you control an island, from black if you control a swamp, from red if you control a mountain, and green if you control a forest. Again, this served decks that used 5 basic lands, but it could work with less, but very situational. Doomsday Spectre, 4 mana 2/3 flying, black, blue. When Doomsday Spectre comes into play, you must return a blue or black creature you control to its owner's hand. When it deals combat damage to a player, you get to look at their player's hand and choose a card from it. That player discards that card. I like Blazing Spectre better because Blazing Spectre does not have the drawback where you have to return a creature to its owner's hand. I think Doomsday Spectre is heavily outdated. The artwork is cool, though. Draco costs 16 mana. Probably the most expensive mana costing card to Planeshift's publishing date, which was 2001. Draco costs 2 colorless mana less for each basic land type among lands you control. So if you have the 5 basic lands out, he'll cost 10 less and only cost 6. He has flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice it unless you pay the 10 colorless. And again, the same cost is reduced for each basic land among land types you control. So if you do have all 5 lands out, then he is a 9/9 with flying for 6 mana, which is a good deal. Your artwork's good too. Dralnu's Crusade. All goblins get +1/+1, are black, and are zombies in addition to their creature type. I forgot about this card. Works well with Dedapult if you don't want to, if you have a goblin deck. Don't you agree that Mog intellects are improved by zombification? Here we have the Mogs rising from the graves. Dralnu's Pet. I can't even tell where this thing's head is. It's a 2/2 shapeshifter that has a kicker cost of 3 mana, and you must discard a creature card from your hand. If you pay the kicker cost, Dralnu's Pet has flying and comes into play with X +1/+1 counters, where X is a discarded card's converted mana cost. So by itself, it's a 3 mana 2/2. So it's trash if you don't use the kicker. And then the more expensive the card that you ditch with the kicker, obviously the stronger Dralnu's Pet can get. But you need 6 mana to, at least 6 mana and a card in your hand, a creature card in your hand for that effect. Not so good. Dromar's Cavern is the lair for a white, a blue, and a black. Dromar's Charm. You gain 5 life, counter a spell, or target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Aladamri's Call. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Tribal rivalries and petty disputes were laid aside at Latimer's summons. Very powerful tutor card for creatures. Urtai's Trickery. Counter target spell if a kicker cost was paid for it for only 1 blue. Don't worry, Gerard, said Urtai. I'm sure the crew will come to your rescue as quickly as they came to mine. So, Urtai can make himself invisible. He can teleport. He can do a lot more now that he's powered by Phyrexia. And as he kidnapped Gerard, he is taunting Gerard because Urtai is bitter that the crew of the Weatherlight left him behind. So he is taunting Gerard with the same. And speaking of Urtai, he gets his own Phyrexian card, the Corrupted. He was just a mono blue before he became a Phyrexian. Now he's blue, black, white. Pay a blue, tap him, sacrifice a creature or an enchantment to counter target spell. Altered by Phyrexian science, corrupted by black mana, and twisted by rage, Urtai still looked in the mirror and saw only glory. You can see he's got an extra set of arms now to aid in his spell casting, but he is no longer human. He gets alternate artwork there. Escape routes. 3-mana enchantment. Pay 3, return target white or blue creature you control to its owner's hand. I'll get you to safety, or whatever passes for safeties these days. Urborg Fairy Pilot. A lot of cards were used to return things to your own hand if you wanted to either save them from dying or use enter or leave the battlefield effects. Exotic Disease. Target player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. So at most they could lose 5 and you gain 5 for 5. Do not fear death. I shall release you from the eternal bonds and bring you glory. Lord Dralnu. And you can see him spread his rage corruption onto the Metatron. One thing that the Metatron were not able to detect Dralnu's treachery right away. One, they were trekking through the Urborg swamps, so they were not doing well dealing with the heavy black mana environment. And 2, the ones that did get sick at first, they had blamed it on the Phyrexian diseases that was spreading around at the time. So Lord Dralnu kind of used that as a cover for his nefarious ploy. Falling Timber. Prevent all combat damage the target creature would deal this turn. If you pay the kicker cost of sacrificing a land, prevent all combat damage another target creature would deal this turn. Well, this is the crappiest fog card I've ever seen in Magic. I don't think I've ever seen the card itself. Flame Tongue Kavu. 4 mana, 4/2 Kavu. When it comes into play, deal 4 damage to target creature. For dim-witted, thick-skulled genetic mutants, they have pretty good aim. Here we have a Flame Tongue Kavu blasting a Drake in the sky. Because of their enter the battlefield effect, they were a good target for the return target creature to owner hand cards or flicker effects. They were usually able to kill any creature that came out on turn 4 or less. They also had a good, strong 4 attack. Their toughness is meant to be more desirable, but it being able to take out another creature was its key to victory. Fleetfoot Panther, 3 mana for a 3/4. You could play it as an instant. However, when it comes into play, you must return a green or white creature you control to its owner's hand. It's really good, though, that you can play it as an instant because you could block with one of your creatures, or if the opponent targets it with a spell, you could flash the Panther in, saving the creature, as well as paying the Panther's drawback, so to speak, and then the Panthers can stay out on the field. The artwork, it shows an elf, and then a Panther's jumping out of the portal where the elf was. Forsaken City does not untap during your untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may remove a card in your hand from the game to untap the Forsaken City, and it can tap for 1 mana of any color. Gaia's Herald. Creature spells can't be countered by spells or abilities. This card hoses blue counter spell effects. It's 1/1 elf. I bring word from Gaia. Fight on. She will never allow her children to die alone. However, it can still get countered itself. Gaia's Might. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end turn for each basic land type among lands you control. For just 1 green. With the Heart of Yavimaya aiding him, Multani didn't even strain at the load. Multani helped upgrade and fix the Weatherlight. Gainsay. Counter target blue spell for 2. I'd be happy to stop contradicting you, Urza, just as soon as you start being right. Bolivar, Planeswalker. Bolivar was another of the Planeswalking Titans. He was a pirate smuggler. And he did not agree with anything that Urza was doing. He did agree that the Phyrexians were a threat, though. Gerard's Command for 2, a green and a white. Untapped target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Unless you like the idea of becoming some goblin's lunch, get up and move. Goblin Game. I assume this is Squee. For 7 mana, each player hides at least 1 object. Then all... Wait, this is a weird card. Each player hides at least 1 object. Then all players reveal them simultaneously. Each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she revealed. The player who revealed the fewest objects then loses half of his or her life rounded up. If 2 or more players are tied for the fewest, each loses half of his. I've never seen or heard of this ridiculous card. This card should be silver bordered. It should be an unglued. I am actually mad that this card saw printing in a real Magic the Gathering set. How do you even hide an item during a game? I don't know what they're talking about. I need to do some research and look up this ridiculous card. Obviously, no one's ever played it because I've never seen it before. Guard Dogs. 4 mana 2/2 Hound. I guess they're dogs now, right? Yep. Pay 3. Choose a permanent you control. Prevent all combat damage target creature would deal this turn that shares a color with that permanent. A good guard is alert. A great guard is also loyal. Good artwork for these dogs. Benelish Kennel Master. Heroic Defiance. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 unless it shares a color with the most common color among all permanents or a color tied for the most. Wear courage as your armor. Wield honor as your blade. From Gerard. Too bad it's too situational. Hobble. For 3 mana, when it comes in play, draw a card. Enchanted creature can't attack. Enchanted creature cannot block if it's black. We see Lord Windgrace, the Cat Warrior Titan. He wrapped up a Phyrexian in magical binds. Honorable Scout. For 1/1 soldier. When Honorable Scout comes into play, you gain 2 life for each black and or red creature target opponent controls. I faced your kind before. This time I'm ready for you. This Phyrexian looks way cooler than the Scout himself. Horn Kavu. 2 mana for a 3/4 red-green. However, you have to return a red or green creature you control to its owner's hand. That did not happen naturally, said Multani. Wrath's overlay is interfering with the Aether itself. At first we had a lizard. Now it became a Kavu. I used Horn Kavu in my Allurin deck, where the Kavu would just keep returning itself, and then Surprise Assault would kill the opponent by dealing 1 damage each time I casted it. Hull Breach. Krobex knows we're coming now, said a grinning Sisay. I just sent the Predator crashing into the stronghold. Choose one, destroy target enchantment, or destroy target artifact, or destroy target artifact and enchantment for a red and a green. After the Weatherlight ends up destroying the Predator falls from the sky and crashes directly into the stronghold. Hunting Drake. 5 mana 2/2 flying. When it comes into play, put a red or green creature on top of its owner's library. Even the fiercest beast will flee when faced with the possibility of becoming dinner. Too bad this Drake costs way too much mana, and it's only good against red or green. Implode. Destroy target land. Draw a card for 5. To save Dominaria, 9 planeswalkers sought the annihilation of Phyrexia itself. This talks about the Titan, how their plan on destroying Phyrexia. Insolence. Whenever enchanted creature becomes tapped, Insolence deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. Sacrificing mortal dragons to satisfy your immortal hunger ends here. Daragaze to Rith. Kavu Recluse, 3 mana 2/2 Kavu. Tap it, target land becomes a forest until end of turn. If you ever seen this particular breed of Kavu, which hides in forests of its own making. I don't know how a Kavu turns anything. A Kavu grows trees out of thin air or something. Keldon Mantle. For 2 mana, it's an aura that goes on a creature. The creature gains a regeneration effect for black, fire breathing with red, and trample with green. Keldon Twilight. At the end of each player's turn, if no creatures attack that turn, that player sacrifices a creature he controlled since the beginning of that turn. Lash Knife Barrier. When Lash Knife Barrier comes into play, draw a card. If a source would deal damage to a creature you control, it deals that much damage -1 to that creature instead. The artwork shows Lynn Civi swinging her lash knife to form a barrier, for lack of a better description. Lava Zombie, 3 mana 4/3 zombie. When it comes into play, you return a black or red creature you control to your hand, and you pay 2 colorless. He gets power +1 until end of turn. Start off as a goblin, and you can see the look of surprise when he's replaced with this melting undead. Kind of reminds me of Tarman from Return of the Living Dead. Brains. Speaking of dead, here's Lord of the Undead. This is Lord Dralnu himself. All zombies get +1/+1. You can pay 2 and tap them to return target zombie card from your graveyard to your hand. I confer with death itself. What could you possibly do to injure me? Well, he didn't. He's all talk because he gets killed by a secondary character in the story. Very good for zombie decks, though. Must have at least one. Maggot Carrier. 1/1 zombie for 1 black. When it comes into play, all players lose 1 life. The mere sight of our undead allies sickens me. What unholy bargain have you struck? Grizzlegom to Agnate. I think Grizzlegom is the name of the Minotaur the Minotaur general. But the zombies do well against the Phyrexians because they're immune to disease. Zombies can keep fighting after taking a mortal wound because they're already dead. Whereas if the Phyrexians are dismantled, once they can't move anymore, then they're defeated. The artwork is amazing from my favorite Magic the Gathering artist, Ron Spencer. Magma Burst. Kicker sacrifice 2 lands. Magma Burst deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If you paid the kicker cost, it deals 3 damage to another target creature or player. Volcano exploded, sending magma and lava and rocks everywhere. So these dinosaurs, I assume they are, got hit by it or blown out of the sky. Magnagoth Treefolk, 5 mana 2/6 Treefolk. For each basic land type among lands you control, Magnagoth Treefolk has land walk of that type, meaning he is unblockable if the defending player controls any of those lands. Too bad he only attacks with 2 power. Now, if you have Doran the Siege Tower, which is a really powerful Treefolk in a much later set, he says your Treefolk can attack with their toughness instead of their power. Then I could see Magnagoth Treefolk being playable, but by itself, not so much. Malicious Advice. A black, a blue, an X. Tap X target artifacts, creatures, and or lands, but then you lose X life. Rule through fear, Dargaze. Only if the dragons feel terror will they truly be your servants. Here, Vexot kind of causes... Vexot is the reason why the dragons grew into a frenzy. And these words that he kind of tempted Dargaze with. Ended up being Dargaze's demise in the end. Mana Silix. Pay 1, tap it, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Overflowing with visions of the possible future, it lends power to those in the present. It's a good mana filtering card. March of Souls. Destroy all creatures. They cannot be regenerated. For each creature destroyed in this way, its controller puts a 1/1 white spirit token with flying into play. Marsh Crocodile. 4 mana 4/4. When Marsh Crocodile enters the battlefield, return a blue or black creature you control to its owner's hand. When it comes into play, each player must discard a card from their hand. Unfortunately, you have to discard a card from your hand as well. It is a 4 mana 4/4, but it has the double drawback. All your opponents will discard a card as well too, so that's somewhat good, but there's just you need so much to be able to use a Crocodile, and there's just way better options. Meddling Mage. This card was, I believe, the artwork or was designed by one of the Magic the Gathering tournament winners. I don't remember who exactly. Kai Bud, maybe? No. But regardless, this is a powerful wizard. It costs a blue and a white. When it enters the battlefield, name a non-land card. The named card cannot be cast. Meddling Mages chant so loudly that no one could get a spell in edgewise. So if he says Sheoldred, then nobody can play Sheoldred. Meteor Crater. Tap it, choose a color of a permanent you control, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So if you don't have any cards out on the field, except for just lands, then this cannot tap for a color. Legend has it that meteor craters are haunted by the ghosts of those who died on impact. Mire Kavu, 4 mana Kavu, 3/2. He gets +1/+1 if you control a swamp, meaning he'll be a 4/3 for 4. At this rate, said Sisay, the next Kavu we will see will have wings. Mirrorwood Treefolk, 4 mana 2/4. Pay 2, a red and a white. The next time damage will be dealt to Mirrorwood Treefolk this turn. That damage is dealt to target creature or player instead, so it reflects the damage back. It doesn't need a bite. The bark works just fine. Mog Jailer, 2 mana 2/2. He cannot attack if the defending player has an untapped creature with power 2 or less. Hey, wake up. Mog Secret Password. Mogs don't make the best flunkies. Mog Sentry for 1 red. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, Mog Sentry gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Nobody stands in one place better than a Mog. Quote from Tarngar. So he's good against blue, mainly because blue likes to do stuff out of all the colors. Blue likes to do the stuff on the opponent's turn, usually counter spells. So Mog Sentries would be good against that, but by itself, it's just a 1/1 goblin for 1 red most of the time. Morg Toad, 3 mana 2/2 Toad. You can sacrifice it to add a blue and a red to your mana pool. The Toads of Urborg aren't fast, powerful, or pleasant, but they have their uses. From Urtai. Maltuni's Harmony for 1 green. Put it on a creature. Enchanted creature has tap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Welcome to Paradise. That's funny he says Paradise because it's kind of like Bird of Paradise. It can tap for 1 mana of any color. Natural Emergence. For 4, it's a red and a green and 2. When it comes into play, return a red or a green enchantment you control to its owner's hand. Lands you control are now 2/2 creatures with first strike. They still count as a land. You can see that this tree is becoming a Kavu. I assume these are Kavu. And then these stones are becoming a creature as well. I believe they're Kavu, but they don't actually have a creature type. They're still lands as well. Namada the Grove Guardian, Treefolk Legend for 6. It's a 4/5. Pay 3, put a 1/1 Sapperling token onto the battlefield. Sacrifice a Sapperling. All Sapperlings get +1/+1 until end of turn. Really good Sapperling Legend. Nightscape Battle Mage, 3 mana 2/2. It has a kicker cost of either a blue and 2 or a red and 2. Or you could pay both if you have the mana to do so. If you paid the blue kicker cost, return up to 2 target non-black creatures to their owner's hand. If you paid the red kicker cost, destroy target land. Very mana heavy, and it's only a 2/2 though. Nightscape Familiar, 2 mana 1/1. Blue and red spells you play cost 1 less to play, and he has regeneration. Very good in my opinion. Nightscape Masters don't stop at raising the spirit of a fallen battle mage. They raise the flesh along with it. He has regeneration, so taking him out off the battlefield is going to be annoying for your opponent. And he ramps your blue and red spells up. Noxious Vapors, 3 mana sorcery. It's black. Each player reveals his or her hand and chooses 1 card of each color from it, then discards all other non-land cards from it. Orberg would just as soon steal your memories as your life. This card is amazing if your opponent's only playing 1 color. Orm's Chant. For 1 white, target player cannot play spells this turn. If you pay the kicker cost, which is an additional white, creatures cannot attack this turn. Orm's Chant is one of the most notorious cards to be put on Isochron's Scepter. Once it gets put on Isochron's Scepter, if the opponent has no way of destroying the Scepter, then they no longer are able to play, because each turn Isochron's Scepter will make a copy of the spell that it was exiled with. In this case, it would be Orm's Chant. So every turn Orm's Chant will go off, and then you won't be able to play spells. And if you have creatures on the battlefield, if the kicker cost is paid, they cannot attack. Phyrexian Bloodstock, 5 mana 3/3 zombie Phyrexian. When it leaves play, destroy target white creature. It cannot be regenerated. It reeks of terror and chaos. See, he's got a big ripsaw hand here, and he's just grabbing and throwing warriors left and right. Phyrexian Scuda, 4 mana 3/3 Phyrexian zombie. Pay the kicker cost. He comes to play with 2+1/+1 counters on it. The kicker cost is 3 life. So if you pay the 3 life, you get a 5/5 for 4 mana. I think that's worth it, and I think Phyrexian Scuda did see some tournament play. His face reminds me of the Fly. Phyrexian Tyranny, a blue, a black, and a red enchantment. Whenever a player draws a card, that player loses 2 life unless they pay 2 colorless mana. He is Yawgmoth's reward to me. I shall kill him 100 times a day. Krovax to Urtai. So as part of a bargaining chip for Yawgmoth to entice Gerard to join him, because at first Gerard did not believe that Yawgmoth had power over the dead. So to tempt and convince Gerard, Yawgmoth gave Squee immortality. Then Krovax kills Squee, and then shows that Squee gets back up alive. Krovax kills him again. Squee gets back up, kills him again. And then Gerard is amazed that Yawgmoth has his power and starts to think that he'll see Hannah again. And this convinces him to stop fighting against him and join his cause. Planar Overlay. Each player chooses a land he or she controls of each basic land type. Return those lands to their owner's hand. The Phyrexians don't want to conquer Dominaria. They just want to remake it. Planeswalker's Favor. 3 mana. Pay 4. Target opponent reveals a card at random from their hand. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the revealed card's converted mana cost. Freyalise strengthens her faithful. Freyalise was another of the Titan Planeswalkers. Planeswalker's Fury. This is Lord Windgrace, part of the Titans as well. Target opponent reveals a card at random from their hand. The Fury deals damage equal to the card's converted mana cost to that player. Can only play this ability as a sorcery. Oh, okay, that's different from the other one. Planeswalker's Mirth. This is the other Planeswalking Titan, Commodore Guff. Pay a white and 3. Target opponent reveals a card at random from their hand. You gain life equal to that mana cost. I enjoy a good joke as much as the next guy. Planeswalker's Mischief. This is Bo Lavar, the pirate smuggling Planeswalker. Target opponent reveals a card at random from their hand. If it's an instant or sorcery card, remove it from the game. As long as it remains removed from the game, you may pay it as though it were in your hand without paying its mana cost. If X was in its cost, X is 0. At the end of the turn, if you haven't played it, return it to its owner's hand. You can only use this as a sorcery. So much text. And Planeswalker's Scorn. This is Vexot. Pay 4. Target opponent reveals a card at random from his or her hand. Target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the revealed mana cost. You can only play it as a sorcery. Pollen Remedy. Kicker of sacrificing a land. For 1 white, prevent the next 3 damage that will be dealt to any target. If you pay the kicker cost, prevent 6 instead. I guess it'd be good in a pinch. Primal Growth. Kicker of sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a basic land card and put that into play, then shuffle your library. If you pay the kicker cost by sacrificing your creature, you can search your library for 2 basic lands and put them both into play. Good mana ramp if you have a creature to sacrifice. Pygmy Kavu, 4 mana, 1/2. When it comes in play, draw a card for each black creature your opponents control. We could learn a lot by watching the little ones, said Agnate. Define little, replied Grizzlegom. Even a Pygmy Kavu is still large enough to create some havoc. But this one's only a 1/2. And you just gain life, you draw cards if the opponent has black creatures. Questing Feldegriff, a flying hippo for a white, a blue, a green, and a colorless. Pay a green, the Feldegriff gets +1/+1 to end of turn. Target opponent gets a 1/1 hippo token. Pay a white, it gains protection from black and red until end of turn. Target opponent gains 2 life. Pay a blue, it gains flying until end of turn. Target opponent may draw a card. This card is really fun to use in a group game. If you could be targeting one opponent with your Feldegriff, attacking them, whatever. And you don't necessarily have to reward the opponent you're attacking when you activate the Feldegriff's abilities. You could give it to a different person and do some... you can play some diplomatic diplomacy in a group game with this card. Quirion Dryad. 2 mana, 1/1 Dryad. Whenever you play a white, blue, black, or red spell, put a +1/+1 counter on the Dryad. Never underestimate the ability of natural forces to adapt to unnatural influences. This rewards you playing multicolors. The less green, the better. Quirion Explorer. 1/1 elf for 2. Tap it. Add 1 mana to your mana pool that any of your lands that an opponent controls could produce. Fight with a friend at your back, steel in your hands, and magic in your veins. The Quirion Greed. Group Hug deck. Yep. That's where the Feldegriff shines. Radiant Kavu. A white, a green, and a red. Pay a green, a white, and a red. Prevent all combat damage blue and black creatures would deal this turn. When angered or frightened, it protects itself with a burst of blinding light. I love the Kavu. Raising Snid. I'm not sure what a Snid is. 6 mana, 3/3 beast. When it comes into play, return a black or red creature you control to your owner's hand. When it comes to play, each player sacrifices land. Just like the Marsh Crocodile, it also hurts you. But this is a 3/3 for 6. Not worth it at all. Probably one of the worst creatures in the game. Rith's Charmed can destroy a non-basic land, or you get 3 1/1 Sapperling tokens, or prevent all damage a source of your choice would deal this turn. 3 mana for 3 1/1s is a good deal in my opinion. Here's Rith's Grove, the lair that taps for a red, a green, or a white. Root Grevel. Grevel? Yeah, Grevel. Root Grevel. 4 mana beast, pay a green and 2, tap it, sacrifice the Root Grevel, destroy all enchantments of the color of your choice. Rushing River, kicker of sacrifice land, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you pay the kicker cost of sacrificing land, return another target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you have the land to sacrifice, then it's decent. 3 mana to return 2 threats. Semi-Elder, 3 mana, 1/2 cleric. Tap it. Creatures you control gain protection from the colors of target permanent you control until end of turn. Definitely rewards you for playing more than one color. Artwork is really good. It shows a bunch of children, and there's a sick person in the background being attended to by the healers while she is defending the kids. The artwork is really good. Therese Nelson hit it out of the park with the drama and the realism of this artwork. Semite Pilgrim, tap, prevent the next X damage that will be dealt to target creature this turn, where X is a number of basic land types among lands you control. Sawtooth Loon, 4 mana, 2/2 bird with flying. When Sawtooth Loon comes into play, return a white or blue creature you control to its owner's hand. I don't know why its head looks so weird. It looks like it became a Phyrexian at one point. Anyway, when it comes into play, draw 2 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your library. This one isn't bad because it doesn't hurt you at all. If you don't have any other creatures to play, the Loon will return itself, but you still get to draw 2 cards and then put 2 cards from your hand on your bottom of your library. You could even put the Loon on the bottom if you don't want to see it again. Oh, this is what a Snid is. I guess it's like a sea serpent with tentacles. Sea Snid for 5. It's a 3/3. Tap it. Target lands type becomes the basic land type of your choice until end of turn. It always has a home turf advantage. Here, I guess it's causing the beach to grow grass. Shifting Sky. Shifting Sky comes into play. Choose a color. All non-land permanents are the chosen color. Master the sky and you rule everything beneath it. Metatron saying. I use this card a lot with a lot of combos. Chameleon Spirit. Its power and toughness is equal to the number of colors of the chosen color that your opponent controls. So Shifting Sky will beef up the Chameleon Spirit. Circle of Protection. Anything that has to do with colors, Shifting Sky will put in your favor. Shivan Worm, 5 mana for a 7/7 trample. When it comes into play, return a red or green creature you control to its owner's hand. 5 mana for a 7/7 trample is good, as long as you have the return of creature to return for it. Shriek of Dread. Here's Crosus flying, screaming, causing the Metatron to despair. Target creature gains fear until end of turn. I think that's all it is, right? Target creature can't be blocked this turn except by artifact. Yeah. When Crosus roared, the battle ended and the slaughter began. Silver Drake, 3 mana for a 3/3 flying. When it comes into play, you must return a white or blue creature you control to its owner's hand. Outdated. Yeah, I love Shivan Worm too. I had a Shivan Worm deck that I had built fairly when the set was fairly new. Singe for 1 red. Singe deals 1 damage to target creature. That creature becomes black until end of turn. Burnt Flesh, Blackened Soul. Somebody got burned. Sinister Strength. Enchanted creature gets +3/+1 and is black. I bless the living with a Song of Death. Lord Drellnu. Sisay's Ingenuity. I can't even say it. Sisay's Ingenuity. When Sisay's Ingenuity comes into play, draw a card. Enchanted creature has pay a blue and 2. Target creature becomes a color of your choice until end of turn. You have Squee in the background. The Weatherlight gets a card, Skyship Weatherlight. When it comes into play, search your library for any number of artifacts and creatures and remove them from the game, then shuffle your library. Pay 4 and tap it. Choose a card at random that was exiled with Skyship Weatherlight. Put that card into your hand. So it's like a small additional deck for artifacts and creatures. But be careful, if the Weatherlight disappears or leaves play, everything you removed with it is gone forever. Skyship Weatherlight got alternate art that I'd never seen before. Skyshroud Blessing. Lands cannot be the target of spells or abilities this turn. Draw a card. Behold, said Freyalise to Aladamri, your Skyshroud home has followed you to Dominaria. Slay. Destroy target green creature. It cannot be regenerated. Draw a card. These Llanowar elves are not having a good time. surrounded by Phyrexians. The elves had the edge in guile, skill, and valor, but in the end, only sheer numbers mattered. Sleeping Potion. Sleeping Potion comes in play. Tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. When enchanted creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice Sleeping Potion. This Minotaur, while drinking his ale, fell asleep. And I guess this mysterious figure in the background was the one who did it. Slingshot Goblin. 3 mana for a 2/2. Pay a red and tap him. Deal 2 damage to target blue creature. It's most effective when it doesn't eat the ammunition. It looks like he's got ground beef that he's about to launch. Or berries or something. I don't know. What would happen if you get another ship into play? You mean 2 Skyship Weatherlights, Vinny? You would have to choose the one that you keep, and the one that you don't keep goes away with all the cards that were exiled with it. Sparkcaster. When it comes to play, return a red or green creature you control to your hand. 5/3 Kavu. When Sparkcaster comes into play, it deals 1 damage to target player. It's okay. Yeah, just like I said, Vinny, you get to choose which one stays on the field. Most likely you would want to keep the original because that probably has all your good stuff on it. Star Compass enters the battlefield. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color that a basic land you control could produce. It doesn't point north. It points home. That's cool. No, you cannot target cards removed by the first one because they're still exiled. Steel Leaf Paladin. 6 mana 4/4 with first strike. When Steel Leaf Paladin comes into play, return a green or white creature you control to its owner's hand. 6 mana for a 4/4 first strike is pretty expensive for that drawback. Stone Kavu. 5 mana 3/3 Kavu. Pay a red. It has fire breathing. Pay a white, it gets the equivalent to its toughness until end of turn. To maintain its hide, it consumes a variety of rocks, not to mention a variety of Phyrexians. Stormscape Battle Mage has a kicker of a white and or a black and 2. If the white kicker cost was paid, you gain 3 life. If the black kicker cost was paid, destroy target non-black creature. That creature cannot be regenerated. Stormscape Familiar. It's an owl. Flying, white, and black spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Each Stormscape apprentice must hand raise and train an owl before attaining the rank of master. Harry Potter vibes. Strafe. Strafe deals 3 damage to target non-red creature. See, the Weatherlight now has lasers. Alright, let's light them up. Quote from Gerard. Stratodon. This costs 10 mana. It's a 5/5, and it costs 1 less for each basic land type among lands you control. So at most it'll be at least it'll be a 5 mana for a 5/5 trample, which is good. Designed like the Gargadons of Keld, big and brutal. Reminds me of an AT-AT from Star Wars. Sunken Hope. Enchantment for 5. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player returns a creature that he or she controls to its owner's hand. While Dominarians fought for their world, Wrath stole it from under their feet. Because of the Wrathy overlay, it caused some geological upheaval, either it being a flowstone, mudslide, or a flood, and the neighboring nations suffered from it. Sunscape Battle Mage with a green and blue kicker cost. If you paid the green kicker cost, destroy a target creature with flying. If you paid the blue kicker cost, draw 2 cards. Sunscape Familiar. It's a 0/3 wall for 2 green and blue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. The spirits of fallen battle mages can serve their guilds as familiars by joining with any physical form. Surprise Deployment. Oh, it's a surprise lion leaping from the trees. I think there's a little bush baby on here. I just realized that, even though I've never seen this card before. Play only during combat. Put a non-white creature card from your hand into play. At the end of the turn, return that creature to your hand. Return it only if it's still on the battlefield. It's an interesting card. I've never seen it before. Tarngarth, the Talrim hero, finally gets his own card. He's a 5-mana 4/4 with Vigilance. It's very rare to see a red creature with Vigilance. Pay 2, he deals damage equal to its power to target creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power to Tarngarth. That would later become the keyword fight. He gets alternate artwork from Kev Walker there. Terminal Moraine. Tap it for a colorless. Pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land and put it into play. Tap, then shuffle your library. This used to be Terramorphic Expanse. Eventually kind of becomes this card. The only difference is Terminal Moraine can tap for a colorless, where the aforementioned cannot. Terminate. Destroy a target creature. It cannot be regenerated. I would say Terminate is the best removal spell. Single target removal spell. No, I guess Swords to Plowshares was the best single removal spell. Terminate was good too because even though it was black and red, it doesn't care what color. It doesn't care if it's an artifact creature. It just destroys any creature, and that creature cannot be regenerated at all. Like his mother before him, Dargaze gave his life defending Dominaria from the tyranny of self-styled gods. And the artwork shows him flying into an active volcano. Now, a lot of artwork of... that's a commercial. A lot of artwork for the dragons shows them to be like strong, muscular, ferocious. This artwork kind of shows Dargaze to be like a little weakling. Like, I almost couldn't tell this was a dragon. I thought this was like a gargoyle or an imp. Oh, don't really want that playing. Thornscape Battle Mage has a red or a white for its kicker. If you paid the red kicker cost, Thornscape Battle Mage deals 2 damage to target creature or player. If you paid the white kicker cost, destroy target artifact. This one, I guess, had the least of kicker costs. All the other kicker costs cost like 3 for the battle mages. Did I scroll too far? Nope. Okay. Thornscape Familiar. 2/1 bug for 2. Red and white spells you play cost 1 less to play. Blessed with many options, Thornscape Masters favor scarabs as familiars. Thunderscape Battle Mage has black and green as its kicker cost. Pay the black kicker cost, target player discards 2 cards from their hand. If you pay the green kicker cost, destroy target enchantment. Again, these kicker costs are more fair than the ones that we've seen earlier. Thunderscape Familiar is a first strike Kavu, 1/1. Black and green spells cost 1 less to play. Thunderscape Masters release familiars to help guide their apprentices down the Thunderscape path. I like how this Kavu's got like a spiky under his chins. Spiky cheeks. Treva's Charm. Destroy target enchantment. Remove target attacking creature from the game. Or draw a card and then discard a card from your hand. I wish you didn't have to discard a card from your hand for that last effect. We're on the last page, so we're almost done. Treva's Runes is the lair that can tap for a green, a white, or a blue. Urza's Guilt. 4 mana sorcery. Each player draws 2 cards, then discards 3 cards from their hand, then loses 4 life. Deep in Yawgmoth's realm, Urza stopped dead in his tracks and rubbed his soot-filled eyes. Mishra. This is where Yawgmoth shows that Mishra's actual body is still alive, and he's being crucified in Phyrexia. And it's also one of Urza's, how Yawgmoth tempts Urza into joining him, because he tells Urza that you can join your brother, be one with your brother again. And that was the main reason why Urza went to war with Phyrexia at first, was to avenge his brother. Voice of All, 4-mana angel, 2/2 flying. When it comes into play, choose a color. Voice of All has protection from the chosen color. Chosen, not chosen. Volcano Imp, 4 mana for a 2/2 flying. Pay a red and a colorless. Volcano Imp gains first strike until end of turn. Its claws cut faster than a flame flickers. I guess it's okay. Actually, no, I forgot it. Its 4 mana cost is terrible. Warped Devotion, for 3 mana enchantment. Whenever a permanent is returned to a player's hand, that player discards a card from his or her hand. There are a lot of returning permanents in this set. Before the Glory of Yawgmoth, yes, even this makes sense. Urza to Gerard. And we have our 2 heroes bowing down, and Lord Yawgmoth's evil presence is here coiling around them, filling their minds with dark promises. Waterspout Elemental, 5 mana for a 3/4 with a kicker of a blue, flying. If you pay the kicker cost, return all other creatures to their owner's hand, but then you skip your next turn. I've never seen this card used before, so I can't really say how good it is. The skipping of the next turn kind of throws the whole thing off for me. And this concludes the Planeshift set. Alpha Kavu will stick as my favorite card from the set. Kavus are like my second favorite creature type in Magic, Slivers being first. And the artwork just reminds me of Tremors 2. As far as the set itself, we have one more set to go, and we will be streaming it tomorrow. Apocalypse will be the next set, and it will end the invasion block. It will also speak the end of whether the Phyrexians successfully take over Dominaria, or do our heroes finally find a way to defeat the Phyrexian forces. Urza and Gerard are now sided with Yawgmoth, therefore they fight on the Phyrexian side. We still have the rare remaining crew of the Weatherlight, which include Karn the Silver Golem, Captain Sisay, Aurum the Samite Healer. We still have Aladamri and Lyn Civi, the Rebels. We still have Tarngarth. Squee is still being kidnapped and killed by Krovax over and over again since Yawgmoth gave him immortality. Hannah, unfortunately, we lost a while ago due to the Phyrexian plague. And that's the whole reason why Gerard betrayed his crew. So we will find out how it all ends tomorrow. If you played Prophecy when it first came out, what cards were your favorite? What card combos did you like or could you see out of this? Let me know in the comment section below. And Vinny says that the Wall Familiar is his favorite card. The Familiars were really good in this set. I do say I like them all. I have used each one multiple times for 3-color decks. We will see the conclusion of the invasion in Apocalypse tomorrow. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for watching this video later on. And have a good Friday night. Take care.